Well, hello and good afternoon. My name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I want to thank you for being on here. We're just going to give people just a chance to just make sure they're in the right spot as I see people coming onto the platform as well. So thanks very much for participating. As I mentioned, we're just going to wait just a couple of seconds here as I see the sections populating, which is great. So glad you could make it to this afternoon's event. Again, my name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I'll just go over just a little bit of housekeeping before we start here. So what you'll find here is basically the live stage, which is where we are right now. This is where the panel will be for the next hour. We're going to go around. We have lots of dialogue and lots of conversations to make. And then also I'll talk about the expo area that we have at the end that you can visit as well. But this is an opportunity for you to really talk to recruiters, find out what's going on, what are the changes, what are the situations, what you can do to help yourself with getting an opportunity to find another opportunity, to find a job, and ask questions. This is an experienced group of recruiters that can help you in your search. So we also have the event chat, and we also have the stage chat. So you're totally welcome to post any questions that you might have, anything you want to know. In fact, to make it a little bit more attractive to you, I will give away copies randomly of my book, Tales from the Recruiter, for people who ask questions as well. So you have a bit of an incentive. I know the first person that asked the question, it's always a little bit, nerve-wracking. I don't want to ask the question, but you are welcome to do that. So let's get right into it. Actually, first off, before I introduce the panel, I've been in the recruiting industry for 25 years, and I wanted to mention that this event is presented by TorontoJobs.ca and EventLogic.ca. It's in a live segment. You can post your questions in the side chat, and we'll cover both topics for job seekers and recruiters as well, because I know there's some recruiters that have registered for today's event too. So feel free to ask any questions that you have, anything you want to know. And as I mentioned, I'll be giving away copies of my book. So let's go around the room, one person at a time. And now we have one person on the phone as well, and I will introduce Doreen shortly. But let me go around what my screen looks like. And Judy McLean is senior recruiter at Group M. So Judy, why don't you introduce yourself, maybe talk about some of the roles that you have, some of the searches that you're undertaking, a little bit about yourself, and let people know who you are.
Thank you, Marc. Thank you, everyone. It's so great to be here and an honor and a privilege. So thank you, Marc, for tapping and reaching out. So as Marc communicated, I'm the senior recruiter, for Group M Canada. We basically cover the marketing and advertising industry. So everything from you see a commercial going out, a radio ad, something on social media. We do 1 in 5 ads across the world. It's probably something that Group M did. So we hire everything from planning, buying, finance, HR, CEOs, basically everything. So check out our website because we are hiring like crazy.
All right. And what website should people go to?
www.groupm.com.
Okay, terrific. And maybe just a quick question for you, Judy, and that is that what are you finding in the job market right now?
It's definitely saturated. So a lot of people are looking. So for even entry-level roles, we have close to 200 to 500 applications. So definitely it's an indication of the pandemic that lots of people have unfortunately lost their jobs. And I would also say that it's even more competitive. But at the same time, I think everyone's trying to figure out a way to stand out, which is hard to do so in this type of period. But reach out to the recruiters, reach out to the CEOs. They will get you through faster than even going to the application. But make sure you still apply.
Terrific. Heather Cowan, next on my screen, Manager Talent Acquisition North America at OSL Retail Services. So Heather, thanks very much for being here, and Judy as well, you too. So Heather, what's going on in your world of your company? What are you seeing on the job front and so on?
Yeah, well, Marc, thank you very much. The same as Judy. Thanks very much for having me and tapping me on the shoulder. Delighted to be here today and provide some of my expertise. And I love helping people get jobs like my colleagues here today. So delighted to be here. A little bit about OSL Retail Services. We're a third-party labor company. So we're not a brick and mortar store. We're in the retail vertical, but we help some big clients staff up some of their stores. One of our biggest clients is Walmart Canada, Bell Canada, and Samsung. And so I'm always on the lookout for either corporate roles at our office, anywhere from, you know, an entry-level position of an admin right up to a director level. So like Judy had mentioned, wow, tough, challenging times for sure, Marc. COVID has certainly seen a huge spike in the number of applications. I think the biggest thing I would say is yes, absolutely apply, but do a real targeted search and find that right job, that right company, right leadership team, right culture for you. So it's easy at these times. And I see a lot of people just get on their phones and apply. Really still do that targeted search and find that job that really has your name on it. So yes, delighted to be here today. And I'm sourcing a number of corporate roles for the corporate OSL for the remote office right now, as well as field. And the website people can check out is www.oslrs.com.
Okay, and whereabouts geographically are the jobs that you're looking to fill?
Geographically, so all over Canada. We do have a huge team down in the US, but all over Canada. And I'm also very proactive recruiter on LinkedIn. So I've connected, I think, with most of my colleagues today on this panel via LinkedIn. And Marc, I know you and I are very connected on LinkedIn. So anyone that's seeking a job, I love it when they get really proactive and just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, well, we're going to have a lot of interesting feedback for everybody over the next 53 minutes or so. So Rebecca Sargent is recruitment specialist at Markham Stouffville Hospital. So let's talk. What's going on at the hospital? You must see it all right up front kind of thing. So maybe talk a little bit about what's happening at the hospital, about you and the roles that you are actively looking for right now.
So Markham Silva.
Oh, sorry, sorry, Rebecca. Rebecca is on a feed here, so I'm going to just put her on. So how's that? Rebecca, go ahead.
Okay, is that better?
I think so. Can everybody hear? Yes. Okay, perfect.
Perfect. So Markham Silva Hospital is a hospital located in the York region, and as you can imagine, during COVID, we are extremely busy. So we are hiring about 40% more than last year. We hired 40% more in 2020 than in 2019. We hired more in 2020 than in 2017 and 2018.
Sorry, Rebecca. Sorry. Just one sec. Maybe Heather, can you just mute yours, please? Great. How's that? Go ahead, Rebecca. Sorry about that, Heather.
Sorry, is that better?
Oh, we're still getting some reverb. Doreen, are you muted? There we go.
Yes, I am.
Okay, Rebecca, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay. So, yeah. Sorry.
No,
so
go ahead. I'm sorry. I had muted it just to make sure that we didn't have feedback, but I'm not sure what's going on, Rebecca. I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. We're getting a lot of reverb. Go ahead. Try again. Sorry about that, Rebecca.
Sorry. Are people able to hear me now?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of reverb coming in. So, you know what? Let's try to come back to Rebecca for a second here. And Rebecca, if you can just mute your side, that would be great as well. Okay, terrific. Okay, so sorry about that. I don't know. Hopefully we can come back to Rebecca. We'll try again in a bit. So let's move to Rickardo. Earle is talent acquisition at Hudson's Bay. Rickardo, you've got a great story as well to share as well with everybody. And you're also in retail. Heather does some retail, or a lot of retail, obviously. Rickardo, why don't you talk about what's going on in your organization as well?
Well, thank you, Marc, again for having me on, and glad to be on a good panel of very fun professionals. So in terms of my role, talent acquisition with Hudson's Bay, more specifically, I'm more of a research analyst for them. So I'm involved in regards to finding marketplaces in regards to candidates, in regards to certain roles that we might have, depending on areas. We always want to look at regions and areas based on statistics and, in terms of where the best market is for candidates. I also handle recruitment aspects in regards to store levels and also corporate levels, and I assist with other recruiters in regards to sourcing candidates as well. I also provide metrics in regards to requisitions, in regards to fill ratios, so we give those types of reports to our leadership teams. In terms of our recruitment at this stage right now, because of COVID, and as you know, that there's many lockdowns happening across the country at the moment, so it's just in terms of stores, we still are recruiting for stores like general managers on the corporate side, technical designers, financial analysts. So we're always still recruiting in a way, even like having people working from home too. That's a big thing that now, since that's the current culture and normalcy in our day and age. So there's always opportunities still with Hudson's Bay. So you can always go on our career site and see what we have available. And yeah, pretty much it.
So Rickardo, maybe you can share an example with people about numbers, since you're doing research on this. Anything that you're comfortable sharing, of course. What kind of ratio? Like, can you say like how many applications you might get for a job? How many out of how many people that apply get the job? I don't know if those are kind of the numbers that you might be getting or analyzing, or anything that you're comfortable sharing.
Well, it's more about the time of when we have an actual request that needs to be filled. So I kind of look at those type of numbers in the sense of, okay, when we have a requisition that needs to be filled, like a financial analyst, for example, we have to go through that whole process of submissions, screenings, interviews in regards to hiring managers, whoever else is involved in the hiring process, and then from there, interviews, final interviews. So, depending on ratio, sometimes it could take a month, could take lesser. It depends on how things are. So we kind of look at those type of numbers in regards to understanding about, is there a certain way that we can improve our processes in regards to making things quicker, or are we on the right track in regards to how we handle things? But in regards to applicants that apply for our roles, they all vary. Retail positions, there's a certain demographic that tends to apply. So it's not a corporate where there's a lot of new grads that want to put their foot in the door, or people that, unfortunately, in terms of how the pandemic is currently, there's a lot of people looking for work right now. So so that ratio has gone up. But some roles are specialties. So, certain requirements people just might not have. So the response might not be as big as they would be in regards to like a certain general financial role that, they can, cross-functional their skills from one to another. So, so it really, we don't really look at that type of aspect in regards to responses. If we do, we will look at other options in regards to sourcing, but more it's about how long it takes from the beginning to the end.
Gotcha. And on average, just the average person who's a job seeker may not understand how long it takes for positions to get filled. Like, is it a few days, a few weeks, a few months? Obviously it depends on the role, but anything you can share on average, like big picture, about how long it might take for a position to get filled? Any information that you're comfortable sharing?
Well, overall, it can take probably a month or so in regards to that, because you want to open up enough opportunity for candidates to have that chance. And at the same time, it's all about coordination in regards to who's requesting it, to who their senior management leader is, to theirs. So there might be so many hands that needs to be involved in regards to the process. So that's when scheduling interviews, first, second ones, you know, all that comes into play. And everybody doesn't have an open schedule because everybody has a plate full of other tasks that they need to do. So based on that, it's not in the sense that I guess you could say that it's not easy, just like, okay, our plates are open, that, you know, I'll interview today so I can talk to you tomorrow, so I can hire you at the end of the week. It's more about, you know, having everybody that's involved in the decision-making process to be involved. And by that, more numbers that you have involved, the more days and weeks it's going to take for that to happen. And then offers have to go back and forth in regards to that, because, you know, sometimes initial offers might not be acceptable for candidates, and then you might have to go back to the drawing board. So it's just, you know, those type of hurdles could come up, which could also deter things a little bit longer. So, but on average, I would say maybe probably a month and a half in regards to it.
Good to know, because, you know, not everybody realizes how long it may take, or may think it doesn't take as long as it might on the other side. So that's good to know. So great. Thanks very much for being on here as well, Rickardo. Doreen Silva is HeadHunter at Match and Fable. Now let's try Doreen. Doreen, can you hear me? All right. No, I think we may have lost Doreen now. So how about Rebecca? Are you back? Can you hear? No, we can't hear you through there. Okay, let's try again. Let's see if we can get the without the reverb. I'm not sure where Doreen has gone. So anyways, Doreen, if you want to call me back, we can try to get you back on. So Rebecca, let's try this again. So do you want to talk? And if we get reverb, then we'll just have to make do and whatever. So Rebecca Sargent is a recruitment specialist at Markham Stouffville Hospital. Let's try it again. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Okay, hi everyone, and thank you for having me. So are you able to hear me better now?
Yes, that is great.
Okay, fantastic. So I am one of the recruiters at Markham Stouffville Hospital, and as you can imagine, right now with COVID, we are extremely busy. So we're hiring.
Hold on. Hold on. Sorry. Whatever you were doing before. Sorry. Whatever you were doing before. Maybe bring your microphone closer to yourself, or if you have a headset or something. So let's come back to Rebecca again.
There we go.
Let's try that again.
So we're hiring about 40% more than we are in 2019. We hired more jobs in 2020 than we did in 2017 and 2018 combined. So it is a very busy job market right now for healthcare. So for the clinical positions like registered nurses and patient support assistants and registered practical nurses, all of the hospitals right now are obviously recruiting for those positions. So we don't get as many applicants for those positions. And then what everyone else, again, I'll mention, the rest of the job market is very saturated. So for our administration roles and our clerical roles and our finance roles, we're getting up to 600 applicants for those positions, and those ones are becoming very saturated. So it's interesting with us in healthcare because we're definitely seeing two different job markets depending on the position that people are applying for. So we're really trying to do two different things. We're trying with our healthcare positions, our clinical positions, to really do more outreach, to reach out to them and tell clinical people why you want to apply to Markham Stouffville Hospital and work at our hospital versus the other hospitals, because it's such a competitive market. Whereas with the more administration positions, we want our candidates to stand out so that we will attract you, because when there's 600 applicants, it's really hard for a candidate to stand out and for us to hire them. So in addition to reaching out to us on LinkedIn, what we found for some candidates that's actually been the most successful is if they've been able to call us at work and get a hold of us. A lot of times we've had candidates that are saying, why am I not successful? And we're able to pull them up in the resume in our system and go over with them. For example, I had someone who called me last week, or I think it was about a month ago, and said, I don't know why I'm not successful. I looked at her resume, what she was applying to, and said, I can tell you right away why you're not successful. You're not applying to the right jobs. She wants to work in childbirth. That's her dream, but she has no courses, no relevant experience, no certifications. But you'd be a perfect fit for this other department if you tried and applied. She applied, and we ended up hiring her 3 weeks later for the position because she finally applied to what she was the right fit for. So we've even tried to do education sessions, because one of our things we've realized is people aren't doing their resumes properly. I tried to do a phone screen with someone today, and their resume, they put the wrong phone number on their resume. So we really want to make sure that the resumes are right. We had another candidate who applied. They had no description on their resumes. They just had job title. The managers said, you know what, like, it's kind of iffy. Let's ask them to do a new resume. And they ended up getting hired once they submitted a new resume. So we're also really trying to work with candidates to make themselves more successful so they will stand out and we will hire them.
Great advice. Excellent. My name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I'll just reintroduce the panel here in case you have missed it, because I know there's a lot of people that are just coming on as we're talking. And if you have questions, feel free to post them on the stage chat and I will moderate them. I see a couple of questions already, but real quick. Unfortunately, Doreen Silva, we had over the phone, HeadHunter at Match and Fable, unfortunately had some technical issues, so we can have her on continuing. So we will get her on again next time. We have Judy McLean, who's senior recruiter at Group M. I have Heather Cowan, manager talent acquisition North America at OSL Retail Services. Rebecca Sargent, who was just speaking, recruitment specialist at Markham Stouffville Hospital. And we also have Rickardo, Earle, talent acquisition at Hudson's Bay. So this is the group that you want to ask questions to. So feel free to post them in the stage area. You can, or in the event area. I'm happy to moderate. I'll be asking the panel questions. Just by asking a question, you'll be eligible to win a copy of my book, Tales from the Recruiter, as well. And that will be mailed to you free, no charge to you. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit more. So Judy, you're doing a ton of recruiting. Rebecca made some comments and suggestions as to what she's seeing from a candidate perspective. What are you seeing? Like, if you were in the shoes of a job seeker in today's market, what appeals to you? Like, what things can a job seeker do to go, Judy McLean wants to call this person right away?
Well, I think it's important to reach out, and I think Heather had mentioned that in terms of connecting on LinkedIn. But I think it's, as she said, being more strategic, and kind of what I alluded to earlier, that if you're contacting the head of that department is going to, be open and appreciative that you contacted them for the opportunity. It's no lie that CEOs love to be contacted and to help play as a matchmaker. They feel that you take your time and to understand that you want to tell your story, right? Because it's one thing to apply to a job and sit and wait, but it's one thing to tell your story and to give an overview of who you are, and not so much as a cover letter, but just a real indication of, how can I get in? What does it take? Or you research something about the company, or some stats about the company, or whatever it is that you like, or about that department. Hiring managers and above, they will take the time to respond. And I've seen it, so I can say this, that I get requests from my CEO all the time in terms of someone who has reached out to him that had a good story, and it gets passed on to HR.
Good point. Heather, anything to add?
Yeah, well said, Judy. I'm so aligned with you. I think we're talking about, proactive candidates, Marc. I think the whole panel would say proactive candidates, especially with the pandemic. Rebecca, I can't even imagine your job right now. Wow, kudos to you. But proactive candidates, definitely reach out, don't hesitate. And then back to the panel's point about in terms of their resume, I know as a recruiter, I'm looking for a well-formatted resume, but I'm also looking for all the contact details. And I can't tell you, even during the pandemic, how many resumes I look at that I don't see an email or I don't see a contact number. So although it could be looking like a great resume and the right fit for the job, I don't know how to get in touch with the person. So a proactive candidate for sure, and a resume that is updated. And I like it all in the header. I'm not sure about the rest of the panel, but I like an easy, here's my name, Heather Cowan, with my cell number and my email and my LinkedIn, just easy breezy. And that makes it just so easy, just right from the get-go to engage with a candidate.
Judy's giving thumbs up.
Yay, I think Judy and I are very aligned, as same as Rebecca and Rickardo. But yes, a well-formatted resume and also a LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn really should match your resume. So I also, and again, if it's all in the header and I can just quickly go see that, that's helpful. And I'm also just going to chime into one of Rebecca's comments about candidates these days. It is a very challenging time. We all know it's a very, very challenging time, like no other we've ever lived through before. But it's so important to do that targeted search and make sure you're applying for the job that fits your skill set, your education, your ability. So to look at those requirements, and I know in our job postings, you know, those top 3 to 5 requirements are really the requirements of the role. So check off, do you really have those 2 or 3 or 4 out of those 5 requirements before hitting apply? And that makes the recruiter's life a lot easier when the right person is applying for the right job that fits their skill set.
That's a good point, yeah. So Rebecca, you're getting a lot of applications. You know, the biggest, I mean, over my 26 years now of being in the recruiting industry, the biggest complaint that I've always heard from about recruiters from job seekers, this is for many, many years, Heather, Judy, you can relate to this too, is I don't hear back. You know, I think I'm a great person for this role, but I don't hear back. So Rebecca, what would you do if you were a job seeker and you're not hearing back from a recruiter?
It's true, it's tough. We hear that all the time as well, that, you know, we haven't heard back. The reality is it's really tough sometimes for us to get back to everyone, especially when there's 600 applicants. We're not able to get back to everyone. And so part of that is making sure that you're applying for the right positions. If you're not applying for the right position, then we won't be able to reach out to you because there's other candidates that are a bit more qualified. Following up definitely helps. Like I mentioned before, we've had people who followed up and we were able to quickly pinpoint, I know why you weren't getting in touch with us, because, you know, you didn't meet the qualifications. Here's some tips to meet the correct qualifications as well. And I also want to highlight what Judy said as well about with the hiring managers. Hiring managers love when they get reached out to and they're quickly forwarding us their resumes like, I want to hire this person, I want to speak to this person. They really love that. So going above and beyond and being proactive instead of just sending your resume out and then hoping that we will call them. We've had some people that call and then I saw that they applied for 30 positions with our hospital in the past month. So they're not highlighting or targeting which areas they want or what they'll be a good fit for. Or we have people that send the same cover letter that say, you know, I want to apply at the wrong hospital's name, things like that. So really making sure that you're targeted towards ours and also submitting a cover letter as well. We've had managers that are kind of on the fence and they said, okay, well, who submitted a cover letter? That's going to be my deciding factor on who I interview and who I don't.
Okay, so this question comes up also, Rebecca, maybe you can just answer this, is people ask, should I do a cover letter? Should I not do a cover letter? Are people reading cover letters? What's your personal take on that? Do you read cover letters? Don't read cover letters?
It's tough because I don't always read cover letters. When I have hundreds of applicants, we're going really fast. We don't always read them. However, when I send them to the managers read the cover letters. That being said, if there's 300 applicants, I might only be sending the top 10 to the manager, and then it's the manager that reads the cover letters. So it is really tough. I know we always say the cover letters. The reality is the recruiters don't always have the time, depending on the industry. You know, a registered nurse, if there's 20 applicants, I might be reading it. If it's a unit secretary with 300 applicants, I might not be reading it. But that hiring manager who's only getting the shortlisted top 10 will absolutely be reading those cover letters. So approximately, how much time do you spend on each resume to look to see if it's a match? Approximately, just to give people an idea. Yeah, approximately, you know, maybe 30 seconds. It really depends on the position, but, you know, do they have the right qualifications? What was their last experience? And do they meet the qualifications? And then going on to the next one. So 30 seconds tops usually.
Terrific. Okay, well, that's good to know, right? For people to realize that you get hundreds of emails, you're not going through it line by line, or hundreds of resumes, you're not going through it line by line. So they really got to catch your eye quickly. And to Heather's point, you know, making sure your information is up to date, somebody reachable, right? Email, phone, and you'd think in today's age that it'd be even easier to reach people given that, you know, whatever percentage are working from home. So Okay, Rickardo. Well, thanks very much, Rebecca. Thanks for sharing that, because we have a lot of questions that are coming in as well. So, so Rickardo, how about you? Like, what tips do you have, job seekers? You're looking at resumes. You're going through resumes. We're getting a lot of questions coming in about, how do I stand out? Any other suggestions that you have when it comes to resumes, when looking to fill positions and along the process?
Yeah, sure. When it comes to, the debate about cover letters, and I know Rebecca, she was mentioning there in regards to that, and I agree, it depends on the industry that you're in regards to how busy you are or not in regards to reviewing resumes. Myself, I do look at cover letters because it kind of gives you just the beginning of the person's story to know whether or not they actually did do the research in regards to your company or not, or if it's just a generic one that they're sending out. So like by that kind of already sets me up to know, okay, this is just someone sending it just to, and I know it's hard when it comes to doing individual resumes for every job you apply for. I know it's not easy, but it's also, it gives you an indication, okay, it's probably the one that you gave to maybe 10 other companies before mine. I always say that when it comes to work experience on your resume, I do go for functional resume type styles. So functional is one way. I know there's chronological styles and others, but functional to me is the best way to go. But also in putting into your job experience, I believe that you should put your accomplishments and try to meld that in regards to your job experience. So by that, you're giving a person an idea about the responsibilities that you were doing, that you accomplished when you were doing your job, compared to just like, I pick up phones, I type 30 words a minute. It's just, you don't need to put that, because that's just a generic thing that, that's nice to know because I have that in my job description. It's more about what you applied in regards to your work experience with that company, and put your accomplishments in, because why not? You're trying to sell yourself to a company, and like it's about the pitch that you're giving them to why you were successful in what you were doing, rather than what you were doing. So I always believe that you should really try to meld your accomplishments. If you've done things in your company that that you did that it was commended by your superiors and others, put that in and try to meld it into the description of what you're doing in regards to your work experience. And in terms of a summary, I always believe you should really put a summary on your resume in regards to your skill sets with your experience, because it's what I call an elevator pitch. You only have like 20 seconds or 30 seconds, depending on reviewing your resume, to sell yourself. So I believe that you should really update your summaries in regards to, and put one in, not just put your name, your address, and your phone number. Put in a summary to let a person know, because it's your story about you. You're selling yourself. So that's what I tell people in regards to, like, don't make it generic, make it personable to the point that you did the research behind what you're looking for, and as well as the fact that you're trying to show your accomplishments and show how good you are to the person that's reviewing your resume.
Excellent. Great advice for all of you. Judy, interviews. So someone's been fortunate enough to get an interview with you, and you're setting them up. What are you using these days? Zoom, Teams, Skype, FaceTime?
Mostly Teams.
Okay.
For interviews, yeah.
Okay, and so you're now interviewing them virtually. So unlike in the past where you could shake their hand, meet them in person, you're meeting them just in a little box like we are now. What suggestions would you have for people who are about to interview with you and are excited about it, and are a bit nervous because they don't have that face-to-face? What would you say to them?
Well, I'd say that make sure that they understand the technology that they're using. That's number one, that you don't want to be caught the day of the interview and you haven't downloaded. You're asking, how do I download? Like, do the research, make sure there's usually, if you can't download it and if it's not working, there's usually a call-in feature, and maybe communicate that beforehand, that I might not be on face-to-face for the interview, and if that's okay. If you explain to people what the situation is, I would definitely run with that. And just, I honestly feel in this virtual world, it's a little bit easier to communicate and express. I think there's a lot of nerves when you are face-to-face, but I feel like being in the environment of your own home or your own space, like you kind of set the tone and the mood for the interview. And honestly, it just gives you a way to relax and to be yourself, and to really connect in a way that we've never. And I think I wouldn't say probably the panel here, but most hiring managers, this is their first time doing this as well. So they're equally as nervous as you are in the virtual sense in terms of, you know, how are they presenting? How do they look? Are they connecting? And there's some people who don't want to be on camera, and that's fine, because that's also going to translate into work, because I think everyone said it, you know, the Zoom fatigue, the fatigue of being on videos. But if you make it to the next round after the recruiter and you're going to be meeting with the hiring manager, I would strongly suggest that you make sure that you are on camera, because they are going to want to connect with you, and just make sure that you're in a good space where, you know, you have good lighting, less noise if possible, but we're all going through it. I'm with my sister and they have a puppy and he barks all the time. So it's challenging at times, but I would just say, you know, make sure that you're prepared to be, and even practice with your video, with your phone, because it's the same thing. Just seeing how you present, asking someone to interview you, even through FaceTime, if you have Apple, it would be a good way for you to see how you present and come off.
Even the little things, right? Like how sharp your camera is, and
Yes.
where the position of your camera too, right? And the audio, right? All the little details. Anyone else from the panel want to add anything about interviews, video interviews, tips, suggestions, things you like, things you don't like for job seekers?
Yeah, Marc, I'll chime in. At OSL Retail Services, our first step in our process is video interview. So for corporate roles, from, you know, entry-level admin right up to senior level roles, we utilize Take the Interview, a video interview, and it's short. There's typically about 5 questions that I confirm with the hiring manager. And the video interview usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes from start to finish, and just gives the hiring manager and myself as a recruiter a little introduction to the candidate. So again, back to Judy's point about preparedness, being prepared and test trying things out ahead of time and hearing your voice out loud is a good thing to do. So first up in our process is the video interview. And that first impression, we've all done it. It's kind of a lasting impression. So video interview is the first step in our process. And then I actually go to next step in our process is phone interview. I actually call the candidate and go, hi, it's Heather from OSL. How are you? You applied. And I'm hoping to hear some energy in the voice, and someone that's been that proactive, motivated candidate that wants that job and knows about the company. And then the third step in the process would be a Zoom interview with the hiring manager or managers for the team that's recruiting that role. So kind of a 3-step process with video interview, and then phone interview, and then Zoom. And then we kind of feel at OSL that gives it just mixes it up a little bit for the candidate, so you're not just constantly getting Zoom fatigue. So that's how we do it at OSL. But back to Judy's point, really good to practice. And again, I can't comment enough on being that proactive candidate. And what's your motivation for why did you apply for that job at that company? So I think that's really important. I think all the panelists, I'm hearing that same thread throughout, Marc.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's great, Heather. Rebecca or Riccardo, anything else to add in terms of the interview itself, like the interview process, video interviews, tips, suggestions for people watching?
So our process is that we start with a phone interview first, where we reach out to the candidates and we're, asking the basic screening questions, which one of them is, why did you apply? And the amount of candidates that instead of doing the research and, we align with your values, you're close to home, I can walk, it's a 5-minute drive. And that's usually their first answer, and their first impression with the recruiter is it's close to home, so that's why I applied. So it's really setting that good first impression, doing a little bit of research as well, because sometimes we don't go past the phone interview if they don't answer well, or if there's some red flags in those questions that we're asking. A lot of times when we ask someone, when are you available to start? Sometimes they'll say, oh, actually, I don't want to start for 2 or 3 months as well. So they don't seem very motivated for the position. A lot of the times when we post, we're looking for someone to start immediately as well. So we're really, even in that first phone screen, we're looking for fit for the role. And then you're usually doing Zoom interviews as well. We have had some in-person circuit interviews, actually. So that's when you have a panel like this with 5 members or 4 members. We actually bring candidates in and they rotate. And so they meet with one interviewer at a time and they rotate. So that allows us to interview 4 or 5 candidates in an hour instead of 4 or 5 candidates in 4 or 5 hours instead, which we've gotten some positive feedback because it's less intimidating when you're sitting with one person and asking questions versus 5 people staring at you and asking questions the whole time. It can be a little intimidating for people. And a lot of Zoom interviews as well. I definitely agree with what Heather and Judy said. Practice makes a huge difference. I know for me, I always like to practice before an interview. It gives me so much more confidence because I know a little bit more what to expect for the questions as well. And it's not just how you answer the questions, it's also your personality and your fit. Our managers are looking for, will they fit in well with the team? We've had candidates who have scored fantastically, but they said, I know that this person, based on what they said, will not fit in well with the team, or they didn't show their personality, so I don't know if they'll be a good fit. So you also really want to show your personality and come through and connect with the panel as well, in addition to answering the questions well.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that. Wow, some good advice. So just wanted to reintroduce the panel because I know there were some people that have just joined. And then we're going to get to some questions from people watching. There's a few of them coming in here. So just going to reintroduce everybody. Rickardo, Earle, Talent Acquisition at Hudson's Bay. Rebecca Sargent, Recruitment Specialist at Markham Stouffville Hospital. Judy McLean is Senior Recruiter at Group M. And Heather Cowan is Manager Talent Acquisition at North America at OSL Retail Services. And Doreen Silva, we had some technical issues, HeadHunter at Match and Fable. So let's get to some questions. So question for you, Heather, first from Pooja. For a retailer like Walmart, when the similar requirements, for example, category management is available for multiple categories, do we apply for multiple positions or we just choose only one?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Marc. Thanks, Pooja. So the vertical that OSL Retail Services in is mostly the wireless vertical. So we're partnered with Walmart running their wireless kiosks. So our team of talent acquisition specialists are typically looking for wireless sales associates and wireless managers. And back to Rebecca's point about doing multiple interviews, we also do career events that are have a whole bunch of people on them. So it's not so daunting, just that, candidate with a manager experience. So we also have been having a lot of success with that, which is great. But the 2 main roles that we're partnered with Walmart in terms of OSL Retail Services is the wireless sales associate and the wireless manager.
Gotcha. Terrific. Okay, good advice. Because on the outside, people may not know or understand. So these are great tips for sure. So Rickardo, maybe this one's for you. There's a couple of people, I'm looking at some of the questions, Aria and Asma, kind of along the same lines. They have, they're outside of Canada. Aria is based in the UK, feels that it reduces the chances of finding a job in Canada. Is there anything I can do to increase my chances of getting hired? Is there any courses I need to take? And then Asma, I'm an international electrical engineer. I'm looking for a project coordinator. As last 5 years, I was working as a project manager in UAE. So maybe just, some thoughts as to if somebody's either new to Canada or is looking to move to Canada who's watching. What tips would you have for them? What suggestions do they have a chance to? How can they improve their chances and so on?
Well, no, I believe everybody definitely has a chance and an opportunity here. It's just all about the approach that you come across when it comes to wanting to seek certain employment in certain industries. Now, depending on certain regulations, because every country might have a different regulation, and that you might have to do your research or you might have to re-educate yourself in regards to their institutions, in regards to learning a little bit more in regards to a background that you might have, but add on top in regards to what standards might be in the certain country that you're applying for. On top of that, certain companies, especially mine, are looking outside of North America too, because now, since we're in a pandemic world, you can do a lot of the work remote. So your the candidate pool is not just no longer like, close to the vicinity of a head office. It's now like you can be anywhere and work anywhere. So experience, from where you're from might be just as useful where you are, and you can stay where you are and work for a North American company. It's also about, as well, as that I know that certain people have certain expectations that this is where I am currently, and I want to match that when they come to a new country. That sometimes that might not correlate right, that you might have to lower yourself maybe more of an entry-level role just to get that knowledge and understanding that you can build that experience up that will help in regards to your resume, and as well as your understanding in regards to culture, because cultures are different no matter where you go in parts of the world. That, it's just understanding the backgrounds of what you're looking for. It's going to help be more beneficial to you for knowing the approach you need to do when it comes to coming here to Canada. So like I said, trying to educate yourself in regards to like re-educating institutions here, knowing the fact that you might have to take an entry-level job just to start off, just to build that experience. And also as well, just look to see, because a lot of job postings have remote on them now. So you don't necessarily have to be in that country anymore to apply. So, and as well, competition, there's a lot of competition out there. So you got to take that into account too, that it's not just because of where you're from that be the reason why you're not getting a lot. There's people from where you're from that are applying just as much as people that are living where the location of the job is too. So, so there's a lot of factors into it, but, it's just, I wouldn't say the people that are from another country or international do not give up, because there's a lot of people that come across here, and Hudson Bay has hired, that have worked, in other countries and then worked for us. So, it's just all about having the patience and understanding to know that it's going to work, but you just need to find the approach to how to handle it.
Terrific. Great advice. So maybe Judy, you can answer this one. The question is it true a lot of organizations prefer recruiting from the same community? Now, I don't know what community means, whether that's a geographical community or a type of person or whatever. So it is advisable to not put the address on the resume in order to get shortlisted. So maybe that is geographically, but maybe you can maybe address that question, but maybe also talk in general about diversity and inclusion and what's going on, what companies are doing, what someone can do to help themselves find a job, or you know what I mean? Like any that you have there.
Well, I would say in the past, for sure, there was biases in regards to maybe where people have lived. So, I think Heather even touched on this, like all that's really needed is your contact details. So phone, email, LinkedIn profile, in terms of where you live really shouldn't matter. And I still see people put their full address on, but I think we also just need to remember that like it's not necessarily needed. So I think the reason why we used to look at addresses was to kind of calculate, okay, can the person commute here, right? That was really the main reason. Like, how long necessarily would it take them to get to this job site? So I don't think this is really a factor anymore or needed. But in terms of diversity and inclusion, I think every company is looking into ways where we can be more open in terms of finding different people for the opportunities. But outreach is the number one thing. You have to be a part of that community or that group and taking a look at what's missing. So the best thing that was said to me last year when we were looking at, all the social injustice is if you look at the square or whatever meeting you're on or whatever circle you have, who's on the call and then who's missing. And if you look at all your teams with that scope of who's there, whose voice is being amplified and who's missing, that will help you with your diversity and inclusion journey. So who's ever missing, you note it and add, and whoever maybe, quiet or shy, you need to help support and to raise. So that's kind of how we've been tackling the DEI initiative.
Gotcha. And anyone else want to talk about D&I, diversity and inclusion, your organizations? No? All right. Okay, so moving on to some other questions. So Rob writes, what is the best way to get a recruiter interested in working with me? As a professional marketer and former entrepreneur, I have such difficulties finding a fitting role and a recruiter who will return my calls. So who wants to talk to that one? Heather, you want to take that one on? Judy's putting up her hand. I don't know. Judy, you want to take that one, or Heather?
Well, I was just going to say I work in marketing, so hit me up.
Okay, there you go. So Rob, you got some contact. So Judy, how should Rob or somebody get hold of you as well?
So my email is my first name, judy.mclean@groupmgroup.com.
Terrific. Okay, and Heather, you want to talk about what you would suggest, and maybe more of a broader, somebody's worked in an area, they want to make a career switch, maybe that's more of a broader question other than specifically Rob. How would you suggest making that switch over for someone like Rob?
Yeah, I'm like Judy. I just before the call got off with one of my hiring directors. I'm potentially going to be posting up a job for marketing and or digital media. So yes, hit me up too. I'm right with you, Judy. So if the candidate can hit me up at Cowan, COWAN @OSLRS.com. I would love to get a resume. And I always try to get back to my email. Just give me 24 to 48 hours for a response. I don't like to say I'll do something in 24 hours and at the end of the day, I don't have it. In terms of a broader perspective, I've had a lot of people this year that are new graduates from college or university, and they went to college or university, Marc, for a specific profession, and then because of the pandemic have had trouble landing the job within that skill set or that arena that they wanted to be in. My thoughts there was, hey, get your foot in the door. Take the admin job. Maybe it's not in HR that you want to be. Maybe it's in our training department. Maybe it's in our marketing department. But get your foot in the door and prove yourself. And then at least it gets your foot in the door, gets you some actual experience within a company and a great culture. And then you can parachute to the job of your dreams, maybe 12 to 18 months down the line. But at least it gets your foot in the door. So I've had a lot of success. I'm not sure about the rest of the panel, but in terms of people graduating from college or university, starting in an admin position, and maybe not in exactly the field if they wanted to be in marketing and they wanted to be in training. But I've said, hey, if you're open to this, and back to Rebecca's and the panel just being that outside the box thinker of, hey, I'm going to get my foot in the door. I'm going to take this job. I'm going to run with it and do great and build the relationships at an organization. We've had a lot of people, our front office administrator, they're always fantastic at our organization, but they're literally poached right off our front desk and then they can parachute to different places in our organization. So I would say my biggest recommendation, especially during the pandemic, when the numbers of applicants to any one given job just seems to be 5 times as much as what I used to have. And as to the recruiters panel, just taking that 30 seconds to go through a resume, get your foot in the door, start with something, be outside the box, be proactive, and get that experience.
Excellent. Okay, so let's see. I got another question here. Can you or any of the panel members provide any guidance as to how best a job seeker can determine if a position is being filled internally versus externally? Rebecca, do you want to talk about that? Maybe how does somebody know on the outside? Is there anything in the posting that might indicate, hey, you know what, we might end up hiring somebody internally, or any other suggestions that you might have?
It can definitely be tough to tell whether or not it's going internally or externally. So our process for our hospital is that we try and only post internally if we know it's going to go internally. If we're not sure, if we're on the fence if it's going to go internally or externally, then we post both. Sometimes if we're not sure, we'll wait until it's closed internally, then post externally. So if we have posted it on our website, we're probably 75% sure that it's going to go externally. And a lot of times now we started sharing a lot more on social media as well. So definitely check out social media as well. If we're posting it on social media, we know it's going externally. That's why we're sharing it, because we really need to find that great, fantastic external candidate that'll be a good fit for the position.
Excellent. Okay, what else we got here? Got a lot of good questions here. Is it a good idea to invest in a moderate quality microphone, assuming the post job will useful assuming it will help you in your job search and your interviews. Good idea to invest in a microphone, Rickardo? Yes.
Yeah. Well, I it never hurts to help in regards to that. It's just anything that you believe that that could help you in regards to selling yourself to a person, then you definitely should go for it. It's an investment, so it's not something that you're just going to throw away. So it's just I definitely believe that any type of equipment that you believe that would be helpful for you for this process of job seeking, then most definitely, if you believe that you have the money for it. If not, then it's again you're selling yourself by just being who you are, and your experience is going to show that way. So, but if you have the money, absolutely. You should.
I got a little microphone, a little stand. It wasn't that expensive on Amazon. Good quality for that kind of thing, right? Yeah. Okay, I do a lot of video stuff. So, okay. So next up, what if you're in? Let's see now. Did I ask that? No. So, what if your industry is really affected by the pandemic? This is from Marc. Does a person make a career change after a set number of months? If a person has over 25 years experience in a certain industry, the question is open to any of the recruiters. So what if your industry is really impacted by the pandemic? Should you change gears after a certain number of months? Like, you're not finding something in your industry. Do you wait 3 months, 6 months, a year? Like, what would be some of your advice? Judy, you want to take this one on?
Sure. I would definitely say reskill as you're going. So if your industry has been impacted, you need to think about your transferable skills that you have developed along the way and where that fit would be, and your interests, because essentially you can have the transferable skills, but if it doesn't spark an interest, you're not interested in learning, because it is going to be a new thing that you would be doing. So invest in understanding, okay, what are your transferable skills? What do you like to do, and how can you use those skills? And looking at the market. So if you're doing your research in terms of what are the roles that are being posted, or what are the companies that you're interested in, and seeing the type of opportunities, and that will help steer and guide in terms of making that shift. I think it's important to realize that we're never going to go back to how we were, and a lot of the jobs that were here will no longer be here. And at the same time, AI is trying to take over. And so how do we retool ourselves and our skills? And there's lots of different organizations out there that offer like free training in digital, in IT. One of them that I've even logged on to is General Assembly, where they have paid sessions, but they have a lot of free sessions. So utilize those resources, do the homework, and retool as you go.
Excellent. We just have a couple of minutes left. I did get a question if each of you is okay with posting your email address in the chat, not on the backstage one, but on the stage one. And for those of you that you don't see the backstage, that's why it's backstage. So on the right-hand side in the top right, if you don't mind sharing your email addresses with everybody here, that would be great if you're comfortable doing that. Okay, what else do I got here? Picture or no picture on LinkedIn profile? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up for a picture. So you got at least 3. Judy, thumbs down. You don't like the picture? No pictures on your LinkedIn profile? You don't suggest a candidate should put their photo on their LinkedIn profile?
Honestly, I know everyone's going to disagree with me. It's not a big deal. It really isn't. I think it's more of a judgment thing, or judgmental, as opposed to, I only put mine on last year because I was reaching out and doing some networking and stuff for work, but I never had a profile, and I've been hit up many times, or a picture for a job. So I think it's not necessary, but every other recruiter will say, hell to the no, have a picture. So follow your gut.
Excellent. Okay, other quick survey here. Megan asks, is Word or PDF format preferred for job applications? So Word, thumbs up. Word, Rickardo gives a thumbs up for Word.
Yeah.
PDF, thumbs up for PDF. Judy, Heather, and Rebecca, you haven't said anything, so I don't know. Is PDF or Word better?
Either or.
Honestly, when it comes to Word, I'm saying like I really say Word heavily is because the fact that a lot of people that like job seekers understand that you go through ATS systems. And when it comes to ATS systems of loading resumes, there could be a lot of formatting, which I'm sure people can relate to, that you have to shape and reshape. If you have a Word document, it makes everything aligned to where you expected it to be. So that's my only suggestion to why I'm saying Word all the time, because for PDF, it might not come out the way you expect it to be. So, that's my.
Yeah, and just for people who don't know, ATS, applicant tracking system, for companies that have a system that brings resumes in. So to Rickardo's point, yeah, having a Word document, and I would probably agree to that too. PDF's not always searchable. It might be just, so, okay, terrific. So we're out of time. I want to thank each of you for being on here. I know there were some more questions that we couldn't get to. I will randomly choose some people to get a copy of my book, Tales from the Recruiter. You can check out talesfromtherecruiter.ca for information about the website, or for information about the book as well. It's available in all the Toronto libraries as well, assuming that they're open these days. I have no idea. But I want to thank everybody. Again, my name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. I want to thank the panel, Doreen, Silva, HeadHunter at Match and Fable, who we had technical difficulties earlier, but Rickardo, Earle, talent acquisition at Hudson's Bay, Rebecca Sargent, recruitment specialist at Markham Stouffville Hospital, Judy McLean, senior recruiter at Group M, and Heather Cowan, manager of talent acquisition North America at OSL Retail Services. I really want to thank you for your time. My name is Marc Belaiche, president of TorontoJobs.ca. I want to also just mention a few other things. I want to thank the team behind the scenes. There's Sandra, Rachel, Alex, Jesse, Anne, Jericho. Lots of people go on to putting this event together as well. Make sure to post your resume on our site at TorontoJobs.ca. You can also follow us on our social media at Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. You can also check out our TorontoJobs.ca YouTube channel. There's lots of great videos on job search that might help you in your search. And you can also send us your resume to resumes@TorontoJobs.ca. And if you are watching, you're a recruiter, we can certainly help you with filling your positions as well. There is actually, we tack on an extra 10 minutes at the end of this, so you can check out our expo on the left-hand side. There's a tab there. You can see some products and services that might help you in your search as well. And I also want to let you know about some upcoming virtual events that we are doing through our eventlogic.ca division. The Canadian Virtual HR Conference happens tomorrow, Tuesday, January 26th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The Canadian Virtual Career Conference happens this Thursday, January 27th from 2 to 4 p.m. So if you like what you're hearing, you want more advice on your career, make sure to come to that. Information about both those events and other events is available at TorontoJobs.ca/news. That's TorontoJobs.ca/NEWS. And you can also visit EventLogic with a K, EventLogic.ca. And we're always looking for panelists. We're always looking for people attending. So if you're interested, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if there's anything I can help you out with as well. So thanks very much again to all of you on the panel. I really appreciate your time. And for those of you watching, check out the expo. It will be on for about 10 minutes. We tack on about 8 more minutes, I guess, right now. So check it out. You have a little bit of time. And thanks again to all of you on the panel. And look forward to working with you and connecting with you at future events.
Thanks, Marc.
Marc, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.